In this video, you'll see the second part of my bookbinding series. There are 3 videos in this series. And in this one, I go over the tools that you'll need. You'll need some PVA or adhesive, and you will need some thread. I use carpet thread because it's a bit thicker and it will stand up to the wear and tear of a book opening and closing many, many times. This is unwaxed. I prefer unwaxed threads, and I wax them myself using this lovely hunk of beeswax. It smells so amazing when you're waxing threads. Even in the dead of winter, it feels so nice to use that. You'll also need a box cutter to trim your pages and cut any of the materials that you'll be using. I make sure that it's nice and sharp before using it by snapping off a fresh blade every time I'm going to be making a book like this. You'll need a regular pair of scissors, and you'll also need a glue brush to apply your adhesive or glue. You can use a bristle brush or a foam brush. Some people prefer foam. And in this book, I'm using elastic. I like to have elastic closures on my written word journals because I sometimes throw loose notes and stuff in there and I don't want them to go flying. And you'll also need an awl. It has a very sharp point, so just be careful of that, but you'll need that to punch the holes in your signatures and your cover if you're doing a Coptic stitch book. In this case, we're doing a French link casebound style book, and so I have a casebound template that I use so that I know where my holes belong. And then you'll need either a curved needle or a straight needle, and I prefer to use a curved needle. And then I'm also creating my own headbands, and for that I use a Q-tip. I just snap off or cut off the Q-tip ends and then wrap the fabric around the cardboard middle part. And you'll need some just waste sheets to be able to glue on top of. I've used these over and over again, and sometimes I will just stick a fresh piece of paper on top of them, and so some of these are 3 or 4 or even 5 pages thick. Eventually I'll be able to use them to punch holes in my signatures instead of using my cutting mat. Now for the book, I like to have a ribbon bookmark in my Casebound books, and this ribbon I found at a thrift store from White Rose, which is a thrift store, or sorry, a craft store that was around when I was very little. I used to go there with my mom. You'll need your book board for your covers and your spine, and you will need your spacer pieces just to allow some space between your spine and your covers. And then I decided to create my own book cloth for this project. So I've got all the pieces there that I need to make my book cloth for the spine. I'm using this lovely green fabric that I think complements the dark green in the covers that I created last week. If you didn't catch that video, look back on my channel. It's probably the one immediately before this one. To make book cloth, you need just a regular piece of cotton fabric, a piece of tissue paper, and some heat and bond. I will link that below in case you want to create your own book cloth. Book cloth can be very expensive if you buy it already created, and then you are limited by the patterns that they have available. And being a creative person, I like to have something available to me that feels like it's cohesive with the project I'm creating. I don't want to have to choose something based on what they have available. So to do the book cloth, you just iron the book cloth or the heat and bond onto the fabric, peel the backing off, and then iron some tissue paper down to the heat and bond on the opposite side, and then you've created your own. So it's just the light sewable stuff, even though you're not going to be sewing it. But yeah, I will link that stuff below. I have a big tube of it, and it's lasted me for quite a while because books don't use that much fabric, so it's quite economical to create your own. I always find lovely fabrics at thrift stores that I like to use as well. Just make sure you pre-wash them and dry them. before you create your book cloth. Next week, I'll have the final in this book series where I create the whole book. So stay tuned for that. You'll also need, I started off as a quilter many years ago, and so I have this giant quilting ruler that I still use for my books. I like how big it is and how sturdy it is. And it's created to be able to withstand a blade. If you don't have a big ruler like that, you can use a metal ruler. It's probably the preferred type of ruler to use because your blade won't cut into the ruler at all. Just don't use a regular plastic or a wood ruler. And then you'll need end papers, which is what I'm using this very free Amazon packing paper for. The goal in this project for me was to keep it very affordable. And if you're not sure what end papers are, it's just these pretty papers that are on the front and the back of the book before the lined pieces or your blank pages. It helps hold the book together. You'll need 2 of them, one for the front and one for the back, cut to the same size as your signatures. And then you'll need pages for the inside of your book. I've printed some lined pages on my printer. It's really easy to create these in Canva or other programs like that and just print them off yourself, double-sided. I have saved like a bunch of different colors depending on what journal I'm making at the time. I think this time I went with a dark green line. Sometimes I do a dark pink or black. And then you'll need your cover materials. These are the covers that I created in the previous video. And if you like some of the papers that you see on those covers, I do have a free 10-page printable paper pack that I'll link below, and you can print off some of those papers and use them yourself in your own creations. And to help me get an idea of what part of the page I like best, I cut out this viewfinder. It's optional. You can just center your book board on your cover if you like the whole thing. I just kind of wanted to get an idea of what I would be seeing on my final cover before cutting it out. So I created this viewfinder. The last things that you'll need are some cheesecloth. I use cheesecloth because it's most affordable. It's just that piece that sits over your text block to strengthen it before you attach it to the end papers. Cheesecloth works fine for me, and for a beginner, it's all that you really need. You'll also need a bone folder. It helps keep the folds on your signatures nice and crisp so that they sit nice and flat next to each other and there's no big gaps. And then I created my own book press because book presses were very expensive. I grabbed 2 cutting boards from the dollar store, and I sent my husband to the hardware store and I gave him a list of all the hardware I needed, and he picked it up, and I drilled 4 holes in the corners of these cutting boards, and voila, easy, cheap book press. I just made sure I put those drain lines on the outside because you don't want the lines on there imprinting on your book. So the flat side is on the inside where I won't leave any imprints. So I'll leave you with a bit of a sneak peek of the finished book. The final video will air next week on Thursday, so I hope you tune in for that, and have a good week.